Carolina absolutely smoked NC State on Wednesday night. Are the Tar Heels starting to figure it out, or is State just that bad?
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, February 20th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to thank you for making us your first listen or watch to get your Wednesday up and rolling. Shout out to all the everydayers with us, the Locked On Tar Heels insiders in the Locked On Tar Heels Discord family as well. It's great to be together. Joining me today is our good buddy, Coach Pac Kilby, who's right in the middle of his Oklahoma High School State Tournament. Supposed to play today, but it's getting pushed back. It's their second game. Let me just go ahead and tell you, their first playoff game, Pac, if I remember the score correctly, 105-23. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's the dumbest and craziest thing I've ever heard. Congrats, buddy. Keep it rolling. By the way, speaking of our good buddies, Coach Rob won big time on senior night on Wednesday night as well at the same time as the Tar Heels were doing. Just all, man, the Locked On Tar Heels family winning all the time. I absolutely love it. Pac, Carolina blows out NC State 97-73. It was a 30-point lead early second half. And Carolina just ran away with this thing. Now 16-11 overall, 9-6 in the ACC right now, sitting in sixth place, 2 games behind both SMU and Wake, who are tied for fifth, tied for fourth, which is a big bummer. That Wake Forest loss continues to loom large, and I hate it so much. Pat, where we're going to go on the show today, we want to talk about Carolina's defense, this pressure and activity we saw as soon as Seth Trimble checked into the game. That man is a leader, and he stared the crap down out of Dontrez Styles. We'll get to that. We'll have our Four Corners recap, Shady stat of the game, Kilby stat of the game. But first, Pac, let's get to this. As I look at this game, I look at the context of what's going on, the pressure of Carolina to win every time they step on the floor right now, no margin for error. The opponent, even though it's not a great state team, it is still NC State. All of that, the scoring margin, bringing all this together. In your opinion, and I don't want to just flippantly say yes to this, is this the biggest win of the season for the Tar Heels?
I don't know if it's the biggest. I'm kind of hesitant to say biggest, but I think it's the most impressive.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Go there. Yeah, because our one quad one win, I think I got to stick with that being the biggest. But I think this was the most impressive, because we just kind of dominated from start to finish. And even though the second half wasn't quite as dominant as the first half, we were largely in control for the entirety of the game. So it was really good to see that. And, I didn't expect it. I'll be honest. I was expecting a dogfight. So for us to come out and play the way that we did, that was great to see. And kind of fired me up a little bit. I was really glad to see that. And obviously send them back to Raleigh holding a big fat L.
Oh, that's so glorious. I'm with you, Pac. Like, just even from an emotional, I love the Tar Heels standpoint, I don't know that I've felt that good all season long about a win and how thorough it was. Yes, NC State pushed back in the second half, as you said, but Carolina got the lead to 10. State got a couple free throws to bring it back to 8. Then we got a Seth Trimble bucket, and never did the lead fall beneath double digits after that. In the second half, it never fell below 20 points, right? Like, that is the thorough domination that you want to see from a team at this moment in the year. I'm right with you. I don't think this is the biggest win of the year, but it is the most impressive, at least in the conversation for the most impressive. And that's a great word in terms of just wire-to-wire thorough domination. It's the fourth wire-to-wire win in terms of Carolina literally never trailing. But what's interesting, Pac, is it's the second such win in as many games. Carolina literally never trailed against Syracuse on Saturday either. So that leads me then, Pac, to ask you this question. Are the Tar Heels starting to get it? Are they starting to figure it out? Or is it just, hey, NC State's really bad and that made Carolina look really good, while remembering that in Raleigh, the score was only 63-61?
I think That's a good question. And I don't know
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I don't know that we'll truly have an answer until we see maybe a better opponent, maybe like at Florida State when we're on the road against a team that has a little bit of a pulse. You know, it's like Syracuse, not overly impressive to me. NC State, not overly impressive to me. But it is, I guess, it's just good to see us doing what we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know,
like yes, good, well said.
We did what we're supposed to do. We led from wire to wire. We won the game. And in this case, we dominated from wire to wire. And so, in that sense, we haven't really seen that from this group yet this season until now. So I do think maybe we are starting to figure it out a little bit. And this is the time of year, you know, up to this point, like, yeah, it matters what we've done, obviously, because our whole resume affects whether or not we make the tournament and what seeding we get when we do make it, if we make it. But this is the time of year when you want to be playing your best basketball. And it does appear that Carolina is starting to do that. So here's to hoping that that's true and that continues. But I think we're really going to find something out when we go play at Florida State. I think that's going to be a major game for us to find out how much we've improved.
I'd add the Virginia game into that as well, Pac, on Saturday. We've got 4 games before Duke. The last 2 right before Duke, the Miami game at home and the game at Virginia Tech, they are not as good teams. Virginia is playing better of late. They've won 3 of their last 4, including winning at Pitt, I think, Georgia Tech at home, and another one on the road. And their only loss in that stretch is Duke, who, you know, everyone's losing to this year in the ACC. So I think both of those, that's going to be a really good test. Virginia at home Saturday. How do you follow up an emotional win? And then going to Florida State next week, to your point, Pac, I think is big time as well. And look, I begged on the Wednesday show for a blowout here so that I didn't have to deal with heart palpitations and all of that. Thankfully, Carolina was listening. They deliver. But Pac, I think part of this conversation that we have to have is, you know, about the thoroughness of Carolina's win here and the most impressive win, as you put it, and maybe starting to figure it out, is the environment Wednesday night is a factor in this conversation, right? As a reminder, or for those who may not realize as you come to this thing, because of the wintry conditions in Chapel Hill, free admission, come sit wherever you want. So it's students all around the lower bowl of this thing, Pac. From all accounts, from everyone that I've talked to, I had some people reach out and stuff. It was absolutely an electric atmosphere. So Pac, how much of a role does that play in what happened Wednesday?
No, I think it plays a big role. I mean, the crowd, I mean, you could hear it on the TV. It just sounded a little bit different, right? Like you could see the environment. You could hear the environment was better. The crowd was a little more enthused. They were louder. The reactions to things were just a little bit more intense. But on the flip side, I think our guys gave them something to cheer about.
That's true, man. That is very true.
And the thing is, it kind of almost made me a little bit mad because today I felt like last night when I felt like I was watching our team play, man, we were just hooked up. We were getting after it. If there was a loose ball, we were the first ones on the floor. We had 3 or 4 dudes going for every rebound. Sometimes it was like 3 guys were going for the ball, and then they looked and they were like, oh, shoot, we're on the same team. Like, guys just clawing for it. And I was like, where have we been? Where has this been all year? Why is this up and down?
Yeah.
And they were hooked up getting after it, and they gave the crowd something to be excited about. And so on one hand, it was a great environment. But on the other hand, Carolina played Carolina basketball. And so, everyone was excited about that and be a part of that. So I think it definitely made a difference. But I think our guys did their part, showing up, being hooked up, ready to go.
Man, that's such a good point. Jay Billis talked about it on the broadcast. He said, man, this feels like Carolina basketball to me, right? And he's seen it up close and personal. He knows what he's talking about. And so that's such a good point, is that there's this symbiotic relationship between the crowd and the players. And if you give us something to cheer about, man, we're going to be there for you. Kind of to your point, I joked about on the live reaction show, like, who are these Tar Heels and what have they done with the 24-25 Tar Heels? Because they just had a different energy than we've seen this year, Pac. And then that leads us to just quickly think about, and we can talk about this more going into the weekend, but the also the irony of all this conversation about a new arena, getting more students down closer to the court. And I think you saw a good reason why. It's like that energy. You think about the energy of a place like Cameron, where the students are just right there, man. Need more of that. So in that new arena situation, we got to get that figured out. Now, in terms of the bubble, right? Because that's a big part of this. Carolina's just got to keep winning and then see what's happening around them. VCU won, West Virginia won, SMU won on Wednesday night, but Nebraska lost, Vanderbilt lost, Arkansas lost at Auburn. A couple of the late night Mountain West Conference games are still ongoing as we record here. So kind of a mixed bag in terms of helping or hurting Carolina, Pac, with that in it. So any thoughts just, from a coach's standpoint, how you continue to like process those things? I mean, is it just, I'm guessing from a coaching standpoint, you're just keeping your guys fixed and locked in on your team, and let's not even worry about scoreboard watching.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds generic, but you just got to control what you can control and take it, one step at a time. So NC State, check mark. Now we're on to Virginia. Do what we do, control what we can control, and let the rest take care of itself. And truthfully, I mean, I do think, I think if Carolina does control what they can control and take care of business, I think we're going to be in the tournament. Now it's going to be close, and we're not going to be a seed that we necessarily want to be, but I think we're there. So we just got to keep doing, the things that we can control.
Yeah. Well, Pac, I absolutely love it. Now, we had the 7th new starting lineup iteration on Wednesday night of the season. Hard to believe it's been that many. And Pac texted me before the game and he said, this new lineup, got thoughts. But Pac, I think your thoughts maybe changed some during the course of this game. We're going to get to that in just a second. Right after I tell you about Roy. Attention, Tar Heels fans. The future of college sports is here, and it is transparent. Before the Roy app, NIL negotiations often happened under the table, and fans didn't have a clear way to directly support the athletes they love. But now with Roy, you get to be a part of that change and supporting your Tar Heel athletes in the most transparent way possible. Roy, the NIL app, allows you, the fan, to choose the player you want to support, decide how much to contribute, and receive exclusive content from the athletes that you back. And the best part, if your player transfers, you get your money back. It's a risk-free way to show your support. The Roy app is giving the fans the control. No more uncertainty. Now you can provide transparent, impactful support and help shape the team and the future of college sports with your contributions. So download the Roy app now from the App Store and start backing Locked On Tar Heels' favorite athletes the way they deserve, with transparency, trust, and a real impact. This is the future of college sports. Join it now by downloading Roy and supporting your favorite players. Pac Kilby, Isaac Schade with you on a Thursday. Pac, we had a brand new starting lineup combination on Wednesday night, the 7th one of the season. This time around, it was Elliot Cadeau, it was RJ Davis, Drake Powell at the 3, Jalen Withers at the 4, Ven-Allen Lubin at the 5. Drake Powell has obviously started multiple games this season, but I believe this was the first time that he started at his more natural small forward position. Pac, did you, like, pre-game, what were your thoughts on this lineup?
Not good.
Why so? Why do you feel that way?
Well, I guess I just thought there's not a whole lot of offense out there. And truthfully, I don't know just quite how I feel about – I still don't know how I feel about Jalen Withers starting all the time. It's just I don't completely trust him yet, and I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's kind of had his ups and downs. And then, moving Drake to the 3, like between our 3, 4, and 5, there's not a whole lot of offense there. So Elliot's kind of been turnover prone here recently, it seems like. And so I'm thinking we've got turnovers. We've got not a lot of scoring. This is going to be one of those deals where RJ kind of has to take it 1-on-5. But I was more than happy to be proved wrong. That 5 came out, and I thought that they did their thing. They played well. The ball was moving. They did a good job defensively. And then what I really loved is right there at that first media timeout, the under-16 timeout, we got 3 guys right in off the bench, Jay Wash, Seth Trimble, and Ian Jackson. And then we jumped straight into our press, and we got good things out of it. And so it was like
back-to-back turnovers off of it.
Yeah. And that first group is like they came in and they did what they were supposed to do. And I think they had gotten, a narrow lead. And then when we subbed, it was like, all right, now it's time we got more athletic. We're going to ramp that pace up and take it up even more than what we just had it. And so I like what Hubert did with that. At first I was skeptical, but I'll admit, I think it was after seeing the way they played together, I think it was a good decision, and I can get behind it.
Well, let me ask you this then. What would you do with it? I know the starting lineup conversation, Pac, good grief. How many times do we have it through the offseason and practice and then the non-con? But here we are again, just because Carolina still hasn't figured out what they want to do with it yet. So from the team that you see right now, what would you do?
Well, that's tough. Here's my thing about it. Either way, we're giving something up. It's like I still think if we go with the lineup we had today, even though they played well this game, there is still some limitations with that lineup. It's just not great offensively. But if we go smaller, then there's limitations defensively. There's limitations rebounding. There's, you could pick the pros and cons to either lineup. But I think for me personally, I like a lineup of Elliot, RJ, Ian, Drake, and Ven-Allen, Lubin. And I know that's smaller.
Yep. And that's one we've seen.
Yeah, it's one we've seen. I like that lineup the best. And I guess you could maybe even make an argument for Jay Wash over Ven-Allen, Lubin there. To me, those two are kind of interchangeable. But Ven-Allen has been playing really well as of late. So I'd go ahead and give him that nod. But like I said, there's cons with that too. There's just a lot. But I think one thing's for certain. I love Seth coming off the bench.
Why is that?
I just think that energy that he brings, it's like he's bought into that role, and he embraces it. And he doesn't feel the need, at least it doesn't seem to me, that he feels the need to be in the starting lineup. Because when he comes in, man, he is just locked in. He's ready to go, and he makes a huge difference. And it's almost refreshing and nice as a fan to think, oh, man, look what we're doing now. We're going to be even better when we sub. And that's kind of the way it was tonight. It was like, man, if this lineup's beating you, you just wait until Ian and Seth
buckle up. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I really like that. I think that's a good thing for us to have that energy off the bench. And Seth seems bought into it, and he seems like he enjoys that role. So I'm all about it.
And again, we look at the numbers. Seth came off the bench, but played the third most minutes on the team in this game, right? Absolutely. Second leading scorer. And as per usual, this season was Carolina's leading rebounder, right? And so it's like, ultimately, as we always talk about, yes, we're all enamored with having conversations about the starting lineup, but ultimately what matters is who finishes and who plays starters minutes. And that's what we saw. Now, I think a big part of that Seth conversation is Carolina. I haven't done the numbers on how many times, but it felt like if this was not the most Hubert Davis had used that 1-2-1-1 press, it's got to be one of the top 2 or 3 games he's most used it this season. And so, Pac, it feels like that's the way Carolina is utilizing their athleticism, trying to speed up their opponent, especially an opponent, by the way, who averages like 6 turnovers a game and had 9 in the first half alone of this game.
Yeah, in college basketball, you can't just press the entire game. It's just not sustainable. You might have success here and there, but players are too good, and it's just too easy to break consistently. But you can choose your spots wisely, and you can use your athleticism, take advantage of your speed and all those things when you use it correctly. Tonight, I thought we used it really well, and I was glad to see us do it. And I noticed an uptick in usage against Syracuse as well. So it kind of seems like maybe that's going to be a staple for us moving forward,
which I like.
And I love to see it. I think it's really good for us to, like we said, use our athleticism. And even sometimes, even if we don't get turnovers, if you notice tonight in the NC State game, we convinced them to take some quick shots.
That's right.
Out of that. And sometimes a quick shot is just as good as a turnover for us. And because that gets us playing our pace, and it gets us getting that rebound and getting out in transition, and we're wearing them down, and we're playing the style that we're comfortable with. So I think there's a lot of good that comes from that 1-2-1-1 or that diamond and one press.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see us continue to use that in the right spots.
And here's the thing, but honestly, my favorite time Hubert Davis used it is one of the big Carolina went on that silly run in the first half, and they call a timeout. Kevin Keats calls a timeout, and literally out of the timeout, Carolina goes right back to the press. And I was just like, dude, all in. Yep. Love that. And speaking of Seth Trimble, with that energy, like obviously I think he's the ringleader of the capability of that press. I've been saying it recently, and I'm going to continue to say it. Carolina needs leadership, and I think he's a guy that can bring it. And like my favorite moment of this game was not Cade Tyson's 2 corner threes. My favorite moment of this game was not Ven-Allen Lubin going off to start the second half with those dunks and the tip dunks and all that. It was not James Brown's buckets late. It was Seth Trimble with Dontrez Styles draped all over him, going up, finishing through contact for the N1. He didn't make the free throw, whatever, but the stare down. Seth Trimble, my guy, just stares down Dontrez, and Dontrez, much to his credit, didn't make it a thing, just walked on by because he knew he had been had. I would have loved to have seen some conflict there, but whatever. That moment, Pac, made my night.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. And I noticed that Seth was playing to the crowd a lot tonight. He would make some hand gestures and different things, to get the crowd involved, which is awesome. But I like the stare down. And part of me I was wondering, would he have done that if it was any other player? I don't know that he would have. It was almost like he was saying, hey, you left this behind, and now you're taking the L from us too, so I kind of like that. And it goes back to that leadership, and some people might look at it and say, well, I don't know if you could consider that leadership or not, but I kind of feel like it was, in a sense of like rallying, like this is our team, like you left, you chose to leave. And I know that he wasn't teammates with Seth, but it was almost like this is us now, and you're not a part of this. And
he would have been right. They were freshmen together, weren't they?
No, I think Trez transferred the year Seth came in.
Man, is that right?
Didn't Trez transfer right after the Final Four?
Yeah. Is he a man?
Seth was a senior in high school that year.
Yeah, I'm getting all my.
I know that's because I met him in the hotel lobby.
Yeah, I'm getting all my rosters janked up.
But anyways, I just thought, man, that was good. And, just one more point to touch on Seth's leadership. Like, I think the fact that he was willing to come off the bench and be that sixth man, that shows leadership in itself. But like selfless leadership, right? Like, hey, I don't need that. You can give that to somebody else, coach. But he comes off the bench, man, he's the hardest playing player we have night in and night out. I mean, he's so consistent in just his effort. And that to me spells leadership. So I'm really glad to see that from him.
I'm just looking at the rosters. Seth's freshman year was Dontrez's sophomore year, and then Dontrez left last year to go to Georgetown, this year to NC State. So they were teammates 1 year.
They were. Okay. Well, that makes it even better.
Yeah, right. It's like, yes, come on with that. Of course, it was that was the Lemon Oreos NIT decline year. So there is that. Okay, gang, we got to get to our four corners recap of this game. How about the Tar Heels getting on the glass and absolutely dominating NC State, getting those rebounds? We'll talk about that and more coming up in just a second. It's time for the Four Corners recap. Let's get after it. I'll kick us off, and then we'll go number 2 to Pac. Number 1, rebounding. In the first game between these two teams, Carolina led 40-38. They out-rebounded NC State, but it was close. And NC State out-rebounded Carolina on the offensive glass in that game. Both teams had double-digit offensive rebounds, but the Wolfpack really, really led things out. On Wednesday night, Carolina out-rebounded NC State 40-21. Carolina had 14 offensive rebounds. NC State this time around had just 7. In fact, I love it when we get these kind of numbers, Pack. Carolina's 14 offensive rebounds matches the number of defensive rebounds that NC State had. 14 offensive rebounds to State's 14 defensive. Ben Middlebrooks, who had 14 rebounds by himself last game, 7 offensive, 7 defensive. The Tar Heels held him to 1 rebound for Ben Middlebrooks, Pac Kilby. 0 points, oh, by the way, along with that. Crazy stuff. Second chance points, as you would imagine, then Carolina led that category 21-13. Really good gang rebounding here from the Tar Heels. Yes, Seth Trimble led the way with 7, but then you had a whole bunch of other dudes with multiple rebounds as well. 5 from Ven-Allen Lubin, 4 each from Drake Powell, Jalen Withers, 3 for Jalen Washington, 3 for Elliot, all of that stuff, man. It was great. Everybody contributed, and the Tar Heels dominated on the glass. Pack, what's Four Corners recap point number 2?
Point number 2 is points in the paint. Carolina dominated that 52-26. And I'll admit, when I was watching the game, I was thinking transition or Four Corners point 2 was going to be transition points. But then it turns out when we checked the box score, it was 14-14. But Carolina was just attacking so much that they were getting paint touches. They were putting stress on NC State's defense. And we kind of had more of a downhill aggressive mentality last night. And so I think that played, a huge part in us getting to the paint, getting 52 points in the paint. That's great. And like I said, we doubled them up, 52-26. So we played really well. And also small little shout out here to Ven-Allen Lubin. I think he set the tone, man. Like, especially early in the second half, he came out aggressive and everything, it was him going and trying to tear that rim off. So I love to see that and love to see us playing from the paint, playing from the inside out. We talk about that all the time on here, and that was a good showing for the Tar Heels in that regard.
It's funny. Seth Trimble, man, always attacking. He drew 3 fouls in this game, which was the second most on the team. You want to talk about attacking, Pac Kilby? RJ drew 7 fouls from the Wolfpack, man. He is so crafty with the ball. It's wild. That's why I feel comfortable with, like, when Elliot's on the bench. Remember that 2022 run? Who was the point guard? RJ Davis, man. Get that man the ball and let's roll. Another great assist to turnover game. 6-1 against Syracuse, 5-1 against NC State. Number 3 in the Four Corners recap, bench points. Carolina had 34 bench points Saturday against Syracuse. I was like, man, really, really good stuff there, guys. I talked about how that was it the most by percentage in ACC play or the most total in ACC play? And I was like, man, that's so good. In this game, Pac Kilby, Carolina has 43 bench points. Let me do a quick scan here to see if that's the most. 49 against LaSalle. So Carolina Wednesday night, second most bench points all season long, Pac Kilby. In the last 2 games, that's a combined 77 bench points, 38.5 per game, man. That is massive for a Hubert Davis team. Great stuff.
Yeah, that really is. And, man, it just goes to show you, I think it's credit to my point earlier. It's like we're better. Once we get better. And that's kind of nice as a fan to know, hey, we got some dudes coming in that are going to come out here and ball out. Okay, point number 4, Drake Powell. Falling out. Last 4 games, 8 assists and no turnovers. So he's been playing really well, taking care of the basketball. And really just want to give him a shout out because I feel like he's kind of an unsung hero with this team. In some ways, he flies under the radar. And I don't know that you can always say that about a guy that's probably going to be a first-round pick in the NBA. But it's not like he lights up the scoreboard all the time. But he does a lot of little things that lead to big things, lead to W's. He's not afraid to do the dirty work and the grunt work. And so and I also want to say he's improved a ton as this year's going on. So fingers crossed we get to see him for a second year in Chapel Hill. That would be awesome. But he's done phenomenal in the last few games, taking care of the ball and doing what he's supposed to do to help us win. So shout out.
Yeah. And I love, like, to your point about little things, had 4 total rebounds. 3 of them were offensive. And I don't know if he got attributed these, but there were multiple plays where in offensive rebounding action, he didn't actually like grab it, but kept the ball alive, bid on the rebound, to use a Coach Williams phrase, and it ended up out of bounds off of NC State, right? Like, that is him getting in and fighting for that ball. It's like those things make Drake Powell great. To combine 0 turnovers in 4 of the last 5 as well, and only 4 total games this season with multiple turnovers, never more than 3. For a freshman, that's incredible. It's time for the Shady stat and the Kilby stat of the game. They both involve 3-point shooting. Mine is Jalen Withers. And, while we said, I don't know about him in the starting lineup, but it's been good the last 2 games. Really, really solid performances. And so if he can find that consistency pack that we've been looking for both of these years of Jalen Withers, we'll take it. How about this? On the season, Jalen Withers, after going 2 of 4 from 3 on Wednesday night, is now shooting 42.9% from 3. He's not taken a ton, just 42 total threes, but he's made 18 of them. And I joked preseason, he's literally flip-flopped back and forth his entire career between good 3-point percentage and bad 3-point percentage. This was scheduled to be a good year, and that's why it's my Shady stat of the game.
I love it. Okay, so I'm going to take that a step further. I'm going to look at our team 3-point shooting percentage over the last 2 games for the Kilby stat of the game. So last night we were 8 of 20 from 3. Against Syracuse, we were 13 of 28 from 3. So we're 21 of 48 total, which was good for 43.3% as a team the last 2 games. So, I mean, what can you say? You're shooting the ball over 40% from the 3-point line. You're doing something right. So let's just keep doing that, keep showing that improvement. In fact, that our improvement from the 3-point line the last 2 games has essentially raised our season-long team percentage an entire percentage point. So doing some good stuff here the last 2 games. And truthfully, we need to keep doing that. If we're going to keep winning and keep giving ourselves a chance to be in the NCAA tournament, be a part of March Madness, then we need to keep shooting the ball well.
That's absolutely right. And that's been a theme and a storyline this entire season. Just if Carolina was even remotely shooting the ball the way they could, 34, 35% on the season, probably 2, maybe 3 of those L's turn into wins just based on that alone. That's frustrating, but maybe it's happening now, Pac, and we can hold on to that hope for sure. Guys, it's been so great to be together today. Thank you for joining with Coach Kilby and I. Great to be together. Pac, great luck this weekend as you guys get back in action. Got to see some good stuff going on there. Folks, if you've not subscribed to the show on audio and video, make sure you do so now. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss a second of Locked On Tar Heels, and you can help us inch even closer to those 10,000 subscribers. If you're not a Locked On Tar Heels insider, now's the time, man. That link is in the show notes. You can go next level with this show, direct access to me. And if you want to join the larger community as well, Locked On Tar Heels Discord, that link is also in the show notes. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Coach Rob and I tomorrow will get you ready for that Virginia game and all the rest of the stuff going on this weekend. But until then, Pac Kilby, tell them.
Peace.